Welcome to another installment of Donning the Armor. This morning we will begin in Exodus chapter 23, verse 14. 3 times you shall keep a feast to me in the year. You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread 7 days as I commanded you at the time appointed in the month of Abib. For in it you came out of Egypt. None shall appear before me empty. And the feast of the harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field. And the feast of ingathering at the end of the year, when you have gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field. 3 times in the year all your males shall appear before the Lord God. So the 3 major holidays for the Lord, these covenantal feasts, basically, all the males are supposed to appear before God. That's why throughout the New Testament we will see Jesus and the disciples going forth to Jerusalem as they're commanded to go worship at the temple. You have Passover, you have Pentecost, you have these days in which they are to come forth and be reunited with God, celebrating all that He has done, all that He has blessed them with, and taking time to reflect and understand His love and blessings. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, nor shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until morning. The first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring into the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. So, rules for which they're supposed to go through these with sacrifices, giving our first fruits. But then he also mentions you're not to boil a young goat in its mother's milk. You're not supposed to, it's perverse to boil a dead child in the milk of its mother. But it's also that you're mixing death with life. You're not to mix death with life, is what God is getting to His people. Do not mix death with life. See, like it said, you shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread. Leaven, sin. The blood of His sacrifice to take away and pass over those sins. So you're not to mix those two. Unleavened bread was what it was to be without sin because of the sacrifice. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Do not provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if you indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. For my angel will go before you and bring you into the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. You shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do according to their works, but you shall utterly overthrow them and completely break down their sacred pillars. So he's saying, my angel will go before you. We see this in Joshua when he is getting ready to cross the river and go in to see Jericho. He meets with the commander of God's armies. He stands before the angel, which in my opinion is a Christophany. He sees the angel and asks the angel, are you for us or against us? The angel basically just says, neither. It is whether you're for me or not. Are you going and walking with God or not? Another one of the things Christians sometimes like to sidestep, besides slavery, is the basic genocide of some peoples. And the genocide they're supposed to carry out against some peoples. These are peoples living in the promised land. Now, why does God need to cast all these people out for his own people? Why can't he find them a place where people aren't living? Why do they need to be cast out? Well, that goes to the 400 years in slavery. It's not because that was their land and they moved in when God's people had a hard time and now God wants them back out. It's that for 400 years, they had a chance to become like Jethro, the Midianite priest. They had a chance to turn to God and turn from their wickedness. And for 400 years, they have continued to be wicked. That is why the Lord told Moses, their wickedness has finally come. The time to push them out, their wickedness has reached its limit. Now they need to be removed from the land. I have given them opportunities. I was long suffering with them. Now it is time for them to be removed. They had a chance, but they chose to worship their false deities. And now it is going to be the Israelites' job to push them out of the land, take it over, and destroy those sacred pillars. Now, we all know they fail miserably at most of this, but that was what God had commanded them to do. So you shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will take away sickness from the midst of you. No one shall suffer miscarriage or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. So the Lord, you do what I ask, and blessings will be in abundance. You don't do what I ask, basically is what it is implied, then you're not going to have these blessings. Blessings will come from obedience. When you're obedient to the Lord, your blessings are more abundant. When you want to reject him, you want to go out and do your own thing, he'll let you have what you want. I will send my fear before you. I will cause confusion among all the people to whom you come, and will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. And I will send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, the Hittite from before you. I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. Little by little I will drive them out from before you until you have increased and you inherit the land. Once again, baby steps. He's not just going to drive all the people out and then wait for them to come in while the land just lays there with nothing happening and wild beasts just continue to multiply all over the place. No, it's going to be an incremental increase in you, in the land you gain, until you have come into the inheritance as I see fit. And I will set your bounds from the Red Sea to the sea, Philistia, and from the desert to the river. For I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out from before you. You shall make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare to you. And as we'll see, none of this actually is successful. The Israelites get complacent and never truly drive them completely out of the land. They do dwell in the land with them. They do make them sin against God. They do become a snare. And the boundaries that the Lord has set, Israel never reaches that size, ever. And will never until Jesus' kingdom comes to fruition. Because then, in his perfection, he will do as was meant to be done by the Israelites. Now, once again, God knows the Israelites are never going to do all these things that he says. But that's their choice. Just because God knows we're going to fail, or if we succeed, doesn't mean we're not choosing whether to fail or succeed. We still choose. Just lots of times we choose poorly. But if his name is the first off our lips, and he is the first in our mind, and being obedient to him is our goal, we will do right more often than not. Moving on to chapter 24. Now he said to Moses, "Come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship from afar. And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come near, nor shall the people go up with him." So he's saying, all right, now it's time for the elders to come up part way, and then they'll worship from afar while Moses alone comes all the way up to be face to face with the Lord, so to speak. So Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord has said we will do. So all this that we've been reading, Moses goes, delivers it to the people, and they all agree. With one voice, it says, the entirety of the people says, all the words which the Lord just said, we will do. And we know it don't take long for them to go back on that one. Watch your oaths. That's all I got to say. Give to the Lord what is the Lord's. Give to the Lord as much as we possibly can. Because when we answer with one voice, we should do what we say and not back right out at the first sign of trouble, as we continuously see the Israelites do, as we continually see ourselves do day in, day out. Because we're not better than them. We're the same. We're the same sinful, fallen people. And we make the very same mistakes they did. We do it time and time again. And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord. And he rose early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent young men of the children of Israel, who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen to the Lord. And Moses took half the blood and put it in basins, and half the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read in the hearing of the people, and said, all the Lord has said we will do, and be obedient. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, this is the blood of the covenant which the Lord has made with you according to all these words. So Moses, continuing the chronicle, writes out everything he had spoken to the Lord. And then he read it again. So he had them say it. They said it with one voice. Then he wrote it down, read it to them again. They agreed again, we will do all that the Lord has said, and we will be obedient to him. And they make a blood covenant with it. He sprinkles them with the blood of the sacrifice. A covenant between them and God. Then Moses went up, also Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders, and they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, and it was like the very heavens in its clarity. But on the nobles of the children of Israel he did not lay his hand. So they saw God, and they ate and drank. Now people will say, well, it says no one's ever seen God. Well, no one's ever seen God's face. We read here, we read in other places, that you can see God almost as a visage, a spiritual visage, but they don't necessarily see the Father. Not in the same way. Not as you would see a man, not as you saw Christ. Then the Lord said to Moses, come up to me to the mountains and be there. Come up to me on the mountains and be there, and I will give you tablets of stone and the law and commandments which I have written, that you may teach them. So Moses rose up with his assistant Joshua, and Moses went up to the mountain of God. And he said to the elders, wait here for us until we come back to you. Indeed, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man has difficulty, let him go to them. Then Moses went up into the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. So God calls Moses up. He says, okay, I'm going to give you these stone tablets now with the law and the commandments, which I myself have written, so that you may teach them to the people. So Moses with Joshua goes up and tells people, look, we're going to be up there. Now you defer to Aaron and Hur. If there's an issue that needs to go through the judges and it needs Aaron's concern, he now can be the one to speak for me. Now the glory of the Lord rested on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And on the 7th day he called Moses out of the midst of the cloud. The sight of the glory of the Lord was like a consuming fire on the top of the mountain in the eyes of the children of Israel. So Moses went into the midst of the cloud and went up into the mountain, and Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. So once again, the terrible, all-consuming fire that is the Lord in the eyes of the children of Israel, Moses goes into it for 40 days and 40 nights. They are now left without Moses for a time. Chapter 25. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel that they bring me offerings. From everyone who gives it willingly with his heart you shall take my offering. And this is the offering which you shall take from them: gold, silver, and bronze, blue, purple, and scarlet thread, fine linen and goat's hair, ram skins dyed red, badger skins and acacia wood, oil for the light, and spices for the anointing oil and for the sweet incense, onyx stones and stones to be set in the ephod and the breastplate. And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them according to all that I show you. That is the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its furnishings. Just so you shall make it." So here we see God beginning to give Moses the instructions for the tabernacle. And we're going to see this twice. We're going to see him give it, and then we're going to see it be built. And it is in great detail by which God begins to tell Moses of all the things they're going to have to do to make him a tent to dwell with them as they travel. "And they shall make an ark of acacia wood. 2.5 cubits shall be its length, 1.5 cubits its width, and 1.5 cubits its height. And you shall overlay it with pure gold, inside and out you shall overlay it, and shall make it a molding of gold all around. You shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in its 4 corners. 2 rings shall be on one side, and 2 rings on the other side. And you shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. You shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark, that the ark may be carried by them. The poles shall be in the rings of the ark. You shall not take them from it. And you shall put into the ark the testimony which I will give you." So here we have the making of the Ark of the Covenant, a wooden box encased in gold to be carried by 2 poles. We'll see later, it goes to fall, man touches the ark itself, and he is stricken dead. It seems unfair, but it's because of what God has said. Obedience. God is not in the Ark of the Covenant. It hits the ground. He's not going to be harmed. But if you touch it, you are being disobedient, and that matters. "You shall make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2.5 cubits shall be its length, and 1.5 cubits its width. And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold. Of hammered work you shall make them at 2 ends of the mercy seat. Make 1 cherubim at one end, and the other cherubim at the other end. You shall make the cherubim at 2 ends of it of one piece with the mercy seat. And the cherubim shall stretch out their wings above, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and they shall face one another." This is going to take a lot of skill, because now they're talking about gold being hammered out in one piece. The mercy seat's going to be one piece, and these cherubs are also going to be one piece. It's going to be one piece. It's not going to be welded together. You're going to hammer these out and chisel these out as one, not adding and doing different things as we would do in our day, but as one piece of gold. "You shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the testimony that I will give you. And there I will meet with you, and I will speak with you from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubim which are on the ark of the testimony, about everything which I give you in commandment to the children of Israel." So God is now saying, look, this Ark of the Covenant, this mercy seat, that is where you guys are going to meet me. Not going to be up on some mountain. I'm going to be traveling with you. And this mercy seat is where you're going to come to me and speak to me, and I will relay information to you as needed. "You shall also make a table of acacia wood. 2 cubits shall be its length, 1 cubit its width, and 1.5 cubits its height. And you shall overlay it with pure gold, and make a molding of gold all around. You shall make for it a frame of a hand breadth all around. And you shall make a gold molding for the frame all around. And you shall make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings on the 4 corners that are at its 4 legs. The rings shall close to the frame as holders for the poles to bear the table. And you shall make the poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, that the table may be carried with them. You shall make its dishes, its pans, its pitchers, and its bowls for pouring. You shall make them of pure gold, and you shall set the showbread on the table before me always. So now we're getting into more detail. You're going to have this table. You're going to have the Ark of the Covenant. These are things you're going to have to do to set up a house for me to be among the people. You're going to have this showbread on a table before me always. You're going to have this as a sacrifice to me. This is going to be an offering to me at all times. You're going to make all of these other articles of pure gold. And this is the way you are going to order things, so that you can be in obedience and worship me in the proper way. You shall also make a lampstand of pure gold. The lampstand shall be of hammered work. Its shaft, its branches, its bowls, its ornamental knobs and flowers shall be 1 piece. And 6 branches shall come out of its sides, 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side. 3 bowls shall be made like almond blossoms on one branch, with ornamental knob and flower, and 3 bowls made like almond blossoms on the other branch, with an ornamental knob and flower. And so for the 6 branches that come out of the lampstand. On the lampstand itself 4 bowls shall be made like almond blossoms, each with its ornamental knob and flower, and there shall be a knob under the first 2 branches of the same, a knob under the second 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the third 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that extend from the lampstand. Their knobs and their branches shall be of 1 piece. All of it shall be 1 hammered piece of pure gold. You shall make 7 lamps for it, and they shall arrange its lamps so that they give light in front of it. And its wick trimmers and their trays shall be pure gold. It shall be made of a talent of pure gold, with all these utensils, and see to it that you make them according to the pattern which was shown you on the mountain. So he's talking about making a menorah. Making a menorah meticulously from 1 solid piece of gold. They have accomplished people, craftsmen that they brought out of Egypt, because that's what they were in Egypt. These people have talents that God has graced them with. But he's also telling them, you guys are going to give these offerings. You're going to wish to give these offerings. I'm going to accept them. And this is what you're going to do with them. But remember to use your gifts for me, for the tasks I give you. But make sure you are obedient to what I ask you to do. That you make all of these things according to the pattern which I show you. They are being made for me, to act in obedience and worship of me. I want them to be made in obedience to the way I want them done. Don't go off and do your own thing. Do my thing. And each of us is made with talent. We have talents. We have gifts. And for each of us, God has said, this is what I want you to do with this talent, this gift. Don't use it for what you feel you need to do. Seek my face and do it in a way that I show you. In the way that I will show you, because in that way, you will do what is truly glorifying to me and is truly praiseworthy of me. We are created to praise, to worship, and we will find anything and everything to worship in our sinfulness. But if we seek the Lord, He will light a fire within us to show us our talents and where to go with them and how to use them to best show the glory of His kingdom. All right, that's where we will stop for today. I hope this was fruitful for you, and I hope to see you again next time. But until then, be blessed.